This is just kind of a more generic, general question. What do you like about teaching, and why younger kids with the youth writing project program?
So I love teaching all ages, and I always thought that I wanted to be a teacher even before I thought I might be able to have some of that life involved being a writer. So I knew I wanted to teach at some age level, and when I graduated from the workshop, I was teaching undergrads and I was teaching grad students, and I still do both of those. I teach at the University of Iowa. I teach a service learning class through the Writing Certificate Program, and I'm teaching at the Writers Workshop, a graduate workshop right now. But when I sort of came back and wanted to make a home for myself and a life for myself in Iowa City, I did a lot of thinking about how I wanted to invest in the community here. And I realized I love kids. The workshop didn't really have a service outreach program, and so I thought, okay, this is a way that I can bring this amazing literary community together with the larger community in Iowa. So in terms of working with younger kids specifically, I love that I could be, working with grad students, having thesis meetings, meet with some undergrads about, a capstone project, and then be working with kindergartners, later that afternoon. So just that range is amazing, but kids in particular, they're so unfiltered, they're so creative. I mean, it's like the synapses are just firing. And for me, I always feel like if we can keep those synapses open and keep them from shutting down creatively, we're doing a good thing, for the individual kids, but also for the larger culture to kind of have that creative thinking still happening. So I know when I bring, grad students or undergrads or community members to work with these kids, most of them are writers themselves, and they're always just blown away by how creative the kids are. And the younger they are, the more effortlessly that happens. So it's inspiring to work with kids and to kind of be around that energy.
That's a good answer. Interesting. Okay. Can you take us through the process of writing a poem, and do you feel the words just kind of come to you, or do they kind of have to, I don't know, how does that work for you?
So it's different with different poems. The closest I have to a process is, I kind of like to think of it as a process of like accretion or accumulation, where I'll have a notebook, or to be honest, sometimes I'll do this in my phone if I don't have my notebook with me. I mean, or wherever, scrap piece of paper, I'll write down phrases that I hear, images that I see. I'm really driven by language, sounds and wordplay. So often it is like a kind of attention to words themselves and their textures and flavors and all that. And so I'll be kind of gathering those in a notebook or wherever. And then when I have, a moment to reflect, I'll try and kind of put those together and see how they're working with each other, and sort of build the poem out of that. So the revision process is less, at that point, like cut this word, cut that word, and more like rearranging and putting things together and kind of like seeing how my observations are in conversation with each other. And then, of course, once I have a more finished draft, then I'll go in and be like, cut this line, cut that line, move this around. That said, there are definitely poems where I'll go back to my notebook and I'll see a big chunk of something and I'll be like, okay, this is the core of the poem. Or every once in a while, the stars align and I'll actually like sit down and have an idea or have, a theme or have a narrative and actually write it from beginning to end, then still doing some revision, but that's pretty rare. So I always feel like a poem, like each new poem feels totally new. I feel like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? But there are some things like that idea of gathering that do help me kind of move through a process.